Welcome to Behind the Lines, coming to you from the socialist, Marxist lines of Washington State. It's a crazy liberal petri dish for the rest of the country, folks. Stay up to date with all the great news right here. Hey guys, welcome to Behind the Line. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Today is Monday, November 30th. And I'm going to stray away from the local stuff a little bit here today. And I want to talk about Trump. I want to know when we're going to accept that this election is over and Biden is going to be president. I don't doubt that there was some fraud in the election. There's always fraud in the elections. I don't know that I believe that it was enough to completely overturn the election results. And it's getting, I don't know, it's getting kind of ridiculous hearing all these stories every day that, these weird stories that come out. And this latest one about the military raiding a server farm in Germany, and supposedly these servers had the actual election results and showed all these votes being overturned and flipped and whatever. And I just wonder how we believe stuff like this. I mean, the military, the United States military did not raid a foreign business in a foreign country and take their servers. I mean, that would cause an international event, and we'd be hearing from the German government if something like that actually happened. And, now you've got all these people saying that there needs to be military tribunals and people sent to Guantanamo. I mean, and I've heard this before with some other things, the pedophilia stuff that was going on or is going on, and all this kind of stuff when Trump first came into office, and everybody was calling for him to release all that information and for there to be military tribunals. And okay, no U.S. citizen is getting sent to Guantanamo Bay. I mean, terrorists don't even get sent to Guantanamo Bay. They get charged, in United States courts, and they go to United States prisons. So this calling for people to be sent to Guantanamo, I mean, come on, people. Do you understand how the American legal system works? They're not going to be sent there. There's not going to be a military tribunal for these people. If there is anything, they'll be prosecuted in court, and they'll go to an American prison for like 6 months, because that's usually how it works out for the rich people. But I'm really tired of hearing, it's like going to the Q movement, and never got into the Q movement, and I feel like that whole thing was a sort of a leash to put on the right wing and keep them busy for a while. I think this whole thing, the trust the plan, that's what the Q people would always say. But you know what the plan was? The plan was this whole thing was the plan. Trump being elected for one term was the plan, and Biden being elected now is the plan. And I truly believe that this whole virus, and I believe the virus is real, although I think that it's being overplayed, its seriousness, but I do believe it's real. But it's the perfect scapegoat. Everybody knew before Trump was elected that the economy, the world economy, was in bad shape, and some sort of major event was going to happen to just finish it off and have some kind of reset and start over. And this virus was the perfect scapegoat, because no one person or one party is going to take the blame for the economy going down. The economy's gone down now because of the virus, and so governments are just going to be able to blame the virus and say this is why we're going to have to reset everything. I mean, and that is going to happen. Even the Fed has made mention of it here recently. They're going to have to come up with some kind of new system. They're going to have to wipe out all the debt. And I don't know what that'll entail, but that will have to happen, because we're like, 30 plus trillion dollars in debt now. That can never, ever be paid off. And I'm sure, other countries are in the same boat. So it's the perfect scapegoat, and I don't think they were quite ready in 2016 to go through with that, and probably didn't want the Democrats to have any kind of blame in that, so put Trump in office, keep everybody busy for 4 years until everything's ready, until they have their event that will cause the economy to collapse and they can have their reset. And I feel like the Q movement during the beginning, during this whole thing, but mostly during the beginning of his 4 years, was sort of a leash for the right wing to throw all this stuff out there and, keep everybody believing that this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And Q was kind of like, somebody, like a psychic or somebody reading the tarot cards. They throw some vague information out there, and so when things happen, it can be, people can look back and say, well, Q said that was going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying that some of the things Q said didn't happen, but a lot of it, was just vague. Watch this or watch for that, or, trust the plan. All these things that people said Trump was going to do when he got into office, how many of these things did he actually do? I mean, he took us out of the Paris Climate Accord, which I think was good, but Biden's putting us right back in it on day one, so it didn't make a difference. The wall, he built some of the wall, but most of it got stopped by Democrats, and it never happened. The travel ban, he had that in place for a short period of time, but again, Biden is going to revoke the travel ban day one, so that will be back in. Took us out of the Iranian nuclear deal, definitely a good thing, but Biden is putting us back in the Iranian nuclear deal also on day one. So, what about all this other stuff, like, Hillary Clinton? He's had 4 years to release the information on Hillary Clinton and maybe prosecute some people. Nothing has been done. Nothing, a few little scraps have come out, but nothing significant happened. Nothing came out, Giuliani says he has all the information, but he's not gonna put it out there unless he can disappear, as if he'll be assassinated, and maybe he would be, but if you're sitting on that information, you don't release it. Why don't you give it to WikiLeaks or something like that if you're terrified to put that information out? How about all the mass arrests that were supposed to happen? I don't know how many times I heard that. Mass arrests are coming, and then somebody would see, that 30 people got picked up in some state for, some child pedophilia ring or something, and say, oh, that's it. This is the beginning. I was in law enforcement for 10 years. I worked in the courts for 20 years outside of law enforcement too. And I'm well aware of how investigations, prosecutions, and court dealings work. And people kept saying, well, they need time to build the case. Okay, they've had plenty of time. And if they had all this evidence, there was no reason to sit on it for that long. And none of that stuff happened. There were no mass arrests. There were pretty much no politicians that got arrested for anything significant. And, what happened? Why didn't he do it? If it was there, why didn't he do it? And, then there's the whole, he's draining the swamp. Have you ever looked up the majority of the people that Trump had on his staff during his time in office? Almost all of them were career politicians, rich people, business people, people who have been in Washington for their whole life, or at least for a long period of time, have been in the politics game, have worked for other presidents, including the Clintons. Now, why would he surround himself with people like that if he's truly draining the swamp? He's had plenty of time to take action on these people, and in the end, it's the same as it was, and it's going to be the same as it's ever been. He didn't make any significant change in the political realm of Washington. All these corrupt politicians are still there. They're still going to be calling the shots. So I just wonder why people are hanging on like this, And it just concerns me a great deal that, I'm friends with a lot of right-wing people on social media, and I'm a right-wing person myself. I definitely lean conservative, but I see all these things being posted about how Trump is sent by God, and just it's cultish. It's scary. It's scary. I'm not saying that God can't use people. Obviously, he can use anybody, but the way that Trump is viewed by a lot of people, it's almost like he's some kind of messiah, and that just is not the case. Look, I voted for Trump in 2016 and this year, but both times, really. The first time it was more of a vote against Hillary Clinton, and this time it's definitely a vote against Biden. And I don't believe for one second that Biden had the biggest voter turnout in the history of the country. The guy is a flake. The guy is... I don't see him, staying in office for his full term. And, something will happen to him. I mean, he broke his foot playing with his dog over the weekend, so the guy's going to stroke out, or something will happen, and he'll be out of there, and then we're going to have Harris. And then, wow. Yeah, wow. Anyway you cut it here, I think we're in for a long, rough ride. The economy's going down in flames. We've got a flake coming into the White House. I just think that, it's going to be rough, folks. And I think it's time that we pull back and regroup and figure out what we can do going forward. And what we can do for the next election. Midterms in 2 years. We need to get Republican majority in both houses. And we need to start at the local level. We need to overturn and get some conservative people in local offices where we live, cities and counties where we live, because that'll make a difference going forward. A lot of these cities and counties are just being overrun with crazy liberal progressives. Seattle is a prime example. It's going down the shitter. The Seattle City Council, the King County Council, all these offices are held by crazy liberals that just want to tax us into oblivion and seem to think that there's endless amounts of money for all these social programs and no need for law enforcement or anything else. These are the people we need to get out of office. So start, local where you're at. Organize with people to back some politicians that, can actually win a race. We had the governor's race here in Washington between Jay Inslee, who's very popular with the liberal crazies in Washington, and Lauren Culp. I mean, how do you pick this guy? Out of everybody that could run against Inslee, how does this guy get picked? I mean, I knew from the beginning this guy did not stand much of a chance because he has no experience. He has no experience. And no, we don't necessarily want some, lifelong politician. I definitely don't want to see lifelong politicians being elected to office anymore. But you got to have somebody that's got charisma and experience, some kind of business experience. And yeah, Culp did, but not the kind of experience that equates to running a state. I just don't understand how some of these people get picked to run for office when there's so many other people out there that have abilities, But I think it's time that we reorganize, and we got to do something different than what we're doing, because it's not working. And we got to stop believing all this bullshit that just isn't true, and deal with reality and take our country back if it's still possible. Anyway, folks, probably not what you want to hear. I'm sure there's a lot of Trump supporters that this would piss off, but it is what it is. And it's not that I don't support Trump, but I just want to deal in reality. And it kind of makes us look kooky when we are floating some of the stuff that I see floating on social media. So anyway, folks, we can all agree to disagree, right? Anyway, I hope you have a great night, and be safe.